Welcome to Brugger Fest 2014. All Brugger all the time, wicked. We couldn't have had a better choice for Auburn's first Poet Laureate. Can I get an amen on that? Yeah. And to kick our event off tonight, please welcome our mayor, Nancy Backus.
Thank you. So Dana's already said the word, but I bet every one of you can remember the very first time you met Dick and you heard what famous word come out of his mouth? Wicked. And he is. The very first time I met Dick, my best friend in high school, Vicki Shager, was working at AYR in the summer building toys, wooden toys, in the basement of a house over behind Burger King. And she went off to college. I'd see her come in, I'd see her go to work in overalls and T-shirts, and I thought, what on earth kind of a man are you working for? She went off to college, graduated from WSU, and came back, and she didn't want to work anywhere else but for Wicked Dick. And I grew to love him just as much as Vicki did, even though I didn't have the pleasure of working for him. But we did have the opportunity to go to several of the plays that Dick was in. How many of you have had the opportunity of seeing Dick in one of the plays? Let's see, I think there's one in here, and it might just be the first one that I went to. I do know too much about you. And for a price, I won't say anymore. Dick Brugger portrayed Elwood P. Dowd in Harvey, a production of the Little Detroit of the West Players at Green River Community College, photo depicted on the cover of Rave, an entertainment supplement of South County Reporter. Can there be a better photograph of Dick Brugger? It doesn't say, so we have to believe what Dick says. No, we don't. You're right, we don't. But Auburn Area Chamber of Commerce Citizen of the Year, Dick Brugger, 1982-1983. So it couldn't just be 1 year for Dick, it had to be 2 years. Everybody else gets 1 year, you get 2. We had a mayor's proclamation, November 2009. As February 13th, 2009, Dick Brugger Day. That was a proclamation of Mayor Pete Lewis. Right over there. Let's see what else. Oh, bio and resume. That might be a little interesting. No. We'd be here all night if I went through what Dick's resume was for. He's a lot of things to a lot of people, and that's evidenced by the fact that you're all here tonight. You probably remember the first time you met him, or he's done something for you. He's always giving of this community. He and Leela are gems. We love them both very much. And you really don't want to hear me up here all night, so I will close with saying thank you so much for being here to honor our very first Poet Laureate of Auburn, Dick Brugger. I can't think of another person that would have been as deserving of the honor or held the honor as well. And we are so proud of you, so proud that you chose Auburn, so proud that you allowed us the gift of your poetry for so many years. This isn't the end. Don't think when your year is up at the end of this year that we're not going to expect any more poems from you. That ain't going to happen. But thank you, Dick, for all that you do for this community. We love you so much, and it's been an honor to have you as our Poet Laureate.
And When you see art in this town, there's usually somebody behind it, and she doesn't like to be in front of it, but she is going to be here, and she's right behind me right now. Most of you know Maya. I am proud to call her a coworker, and I'm also proud to call her a friend. Please welcome our arts coordinator, Maya McKnight.
Thank you, and thank you all so much for coming out tonight. It's an amazing turnout for a wonderful event. So in October of 2011, an ordinance was signed into place establishing the position of a Poet Laureate for the City of Auburn. The ordinance itself recognizes literary arts as a really vital part of the fabric of the City of Auburn, and the creation and appointment of the Poet Laureate was established to bring higher visibility to the literary arts. So when I first met Dick, after he had been nominated and appointed, he said, well, what should I do? What does this mean? And so, I kind of generally said, well, for the greater good of this people of Auburn and development of poetry to go along with different city events. And so I said this, and he kind of looked at me and said, okay, well, I might have some ideas. And so about an hour later, after kind of brainstorming, we had a whole page of different things that he had kind of thought that he might want to do. My first reaction when seeing this entire list was like, this is a voluntary position, Dick. We don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want this to be a second job or a job. And so, but he said, no, don't worry about it. And so when I was preparing for tonight, I kind of looked through that initial list that we had established and kind of made a list of myself of what we had actually accomplished in these past 3 years as Dick sat in the role of Poet Laureate. And the amount of programs and events and projects that he's done for the City of Auburn is pretty amazing. So a short list is just, one was to establish the monthly Poets Corner in the Auburn Reporter. And so I know it's a favorite spot in the Auburn Reporter that many people look forward to. Dick's idea for that, which was wonderful. Offering public programs at the Auburn Avenue Theater, both in conjunction with National Poetry Month every April, as well as other public events that he brought family, friends in to really for the celebration of community and for literary arts. Participating in special events, including 4th of July and Uniquely Auburn and a whole host of other community celebrations. Partnering with the city to create poetry-inspired public art projects. So we have a mural right down the street, across the street from Ace Hardware, that proudly features Dick's poetry, Railroads Are Our Beginnings and Where We Are Now, that we painted on the side of the building as part of a clean sweep project a couple years ago. As well as a different public art project that as we replace sidewalks in parks, we have etched his poetry within those segments that are replaced. And so there's 2 poems as you're making laps around Lescove Park. You can kind of look down and be inspired by some words in the concrete. So wrote poetry that were translated for sister city visits and exchanges, attended council meetings for National Poetry Month resolutions, participated in a variety of different youth poetry workshops, partnered with White River Valley Museums for the Pet Poetry Contest, and also just strengthened communication between the city and the various poetry groups that are thriving in this area. And so there were those and much, much more that I'm sure I'm not aware of as well. So while Dick's term isn't over until the end of this calendar year, he's been an incredible force that has truly brought a greater appreciation to the poetry in Auburn. So I thank you for your service and incredible energy to share poetry for the love of for Auburn. Thank you.
Our next presenter is someone who was instrumental in the formation of our first Poet Laureate program and also in the nomination of Dick for this honor. Please welcome Marjorie Rummel.
I've known Dick for, oh my gosh, since he came to town. In fact, I sat briefly on the board of Auburn Youth Resources many years ago when it was down on D Street Southeast behind the Justice Center. Common wisdom suggests that a prophet or a poet in his own country has to work really hard to be heard. And that may be true for some poets in many countries, but it's not true of Richard Wicked Dick Brugger, Auburn's first poet laureate. Wicked! Dick's poems peek out at us from unexpected quarters in many places here in Auburn in the most unexpected, indelible ways. Droll observances, thoughtful meditations, happy celebrations cemented into the curb in front of the senior center, adorning patches in the walkway around Lesko Park. Cheerful and colorful as the man himself on the side of that barn. It was also clear in a poem that he wrote that was carried to China by the Auburn City Sisters organization. It also shows up in poignant and sometimes bust-a-gut funny poems in the Poets' Corner in the Reporter. Dick's poems and presence are welcome in just about any setting, at home with friends and family, in schools, civic club meetings, and city observances and celebrations. The first Wednesday poetry evening readings at the Auburn Station Bistro. He's a well-loved fixture, spreading happy laughter wherever he goes. The man could never get lost. Listen to that laugh. You could find him anywhere, in the biggest crowd, in the darkest room. You'd know it was him. Like clear water poured from a cool jug, that laugh, and the dear face that surrounds it. Dick Brugger is a happy soul whose charm appeals to every generation, energizing emergent poets to discover for themselves the power and romance of words, people who don't think they could do it. In a time when the art of poetry is often regarded as self-referential and gloomy, Dick Brugger is anything but. And he's more contagious than measles. God bless him.
And now representing the Arts Commission, the lovely and talented Nancy Colson.
It's my honor to be part of this celebration for Dick. One of the arts in Auburn that the Arts Commission is passionately committed to is the literary arts, and we're delighted to have had Dick as our very first poet laureate in Auburn. And Dick inspires those who, as Marjorie said, either don't think they like poetry or don't think they can do it themselves to give it a try. When you're infected with it, as Dick infects people with the love of poetry, it kind of creeps up on you. But I want to read something to you. You've been hearing this a lot lately with the passing of Robin Williams from his role as John Keating in Dead Poets Society, where he says, "We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race. And the human race is filled with passion. And medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for." To quote from Whitman, "Oh me, oh life, of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, what good amid these? Oh me, oh life." The answer, that you are here, that life exists, and identity, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be? And Dick's verse has been written large and loud and funny. I'm going to tell you a few things that other people haven't said. This is actually from the letter of recommendation that I wrote when we were considering who the first poet laureate would be. Dick Brugger has an active life as a poet in Auburn and beyond. His dedication to the art and craft of poetry is widely known and well respected. Dick interacts with other writers and poets through groups and organizations, too many to name, that promote the art of poetry through sharing, critiques, readings, recitations, and other activities that provide inspiration and build confidence. Dick's poetry sketches his life, his family, the natural world, human nature, art, beauty, the full experience of being alive. His curiosity, wit, and zest for life shine from his every line. His life as a poet promotes poetry itself, inspires people to listen for it in their lives, and understand that poets filter and interpret life and the world, then play it back for us, rather like those who go into deep woods and emerge with beautiful recordings of rare bird song. Dick Brugger was the perfect poet to fill this position, and I think we are eternally grateful to him for doing this. And one thing I want to do, and this is like a little gift for you, Dick, because I go to poetry nights and I never read. So I'm going to read a poem for you by Billy Collins, who I know is one of Dick's favorites. In fact, your poetry reminds me of his a bit. This one is called Forgetfulness, and the name of the author is the first to go, followed obediently by the title, the plot, the heartbreaking conclusion, the entire novel, which suddenly becomes one you've never read, never even heard of. As if, one by one, the memories you used to harbor decided to retire to the southern hemisphere of the brain, to a little fishing village where there are no phones. Long ago, you kissed the names of the 9 muses goodbye and watched the quadratic equation pack its bag. And even now, as you memorize the order of the planets, something else is slipping away. A state flower, perhaps. The address of an uncle, the capital of Paraguay. Whatever it is you are struggling to remember, it is not poised on the tip of your tongue, not even lurking in some obscure corner of your spleen. It has floated away down a dark mythological river whose name begins with an L, as far as you can recall, well on your own way to oblivion, where you will join those who have even forgotten how to swim and how to ride a bicycle. No wonder you rise in the middle of the night to look up the date of a famous battle in a book on war. No wonder the moon in the window seems to have drifted out of a love poem that you used to know by heart.
We would now like to hear from the Brugger son, Josh Brugger.
In my family of origin, there are 2 types of people. There's the artists, like my dad, my sister, and my mom. And then there's the other group. And that's where I'm at, and that's the beautiful subject. So I have one goal in life, and that is I want people to bring their kids to museums 100, 200, 300 years from now. Because when I was a kid going to art museums, I was bored out of my mind. And I had to be bored for hours going through these museums. So I want kids 100 years from now to be bored having to look at pictures of me. And so I will sit anytime I can. But I also like to be the subject of my dad's poetry, so I'm going to read it because I know he wouldn't, and I want you guys to have to sit through this and have to listen to this. At one moment in my son Joshua's life, as a small child, skunks predominated. We came upon a dead skunk on the highway. My son pleaded that we stop to look at it. Nothing could interrupt my son's thoughts about skunks. Upon arriving home, Joshua bounded into the house, yelling to his even younger sister, Jessie, "Jessie, guess what? we saw a dead skunk hit by a car. What color was the car? His sister asked. But now I want to show you some of my poem. Here's some stuff of me, pictures of me. Why you see it? I have more. Okay, here's one. It shows my balding hair. Okay, one more. Okay. Now, it's awesome because I'm also a sculptor. So it's so sweet. And again, I have no problem sitting for my sister or telling my dad stories because every time they paint a picture of me or every time they write a poem about me, there's a chance that 100 years from now, 200 years from now, some darn kid is going to be bored out of their mind having to look at me or hear something about me. So that's it. That's where I come from.
Wow. What's that thing they say about the apple not falling far from the tree? They like that. It's quite a family. You guys would be a great reality show, I think. Brugger Cam. It is now time to hear from our guest of honor, Auburn's own Poet Laureate, Mr. Dick Brugger.
I want to thank everybody who was so nice to me. Now you have to listen to me. My son Josh is ferocious. But anyhow, I would like to say that the first time illegally I dated my wife, we went to, I lived in Vancouver, and I hate to say I hope I don't scandalize anybody, but I was an illicit Catholic priest. And okay. And anyhow, we had to meet, we worked with, I had a parish in Skid Row, so we had to meet a place, none of our, and she was a social worker. And so we had to meet at a place nobody knew us, and we went to this high hotel, the Hyatt, and had dinner. And during dinner, she said, I'm going to recite some poetry. And she did, and she went on, and it was beautiful, and she does it all from her head. And she said, now why don't you recite some? I said, I don't know any poetry. That's true. But anyhow, I still don't know too much poetry, but I am the Poet Laureate of Auburn, and nobody's going to take that away from me. So anyhow, I am going to read a poem somewhat serious. Today is a serious day, and I thought it's a rather strange day in a way, but this is 9/11 revisited. When the devastation of Pearl Harbor occurred, I was a little boy on our back porch in Pennsylvania. President Roosevelt was on the radio. I recall his chilling words. Even as a little boy, I recall their numbing impact. It was my son Josh calling from Atlantic City, New Jersey, stating at 9/11 occurred. Josh, you've gotten it wrong. That could not have happened. You've gotten it wrong. Unfortunately, he did not. It was sickeningly pernicious. Suicide bombers, our own commercial air flights, thousands annihilated reducing our twin world trade towers to nothing. I'm still not over it. Scarily, I realize now anything can happen. Also, I realize we can come back, a people, a city, a country, our USA. I have a couple poems. I'm going to read a couple poems. I hope you don't mind. Because I am the Poet Laureate. Okay. In the Eye of the Beholder by Dick Brugger. That's me. At the Safeway checkout counter, among the several customers ahead of me, a fifth grader from Dick Scobie's school nudges her family, exclaims, "There's my art teacher," points to me. She and I acknowledge each other with a smile. Her family looks directly at me, scrunch their eyes, search in vain, desperately trying to find their daughter's art teacher. All they see is an old man. I hope that was good. It's the best one I have. No. No, I have some others. I have to read. How many am I supposed to read? Oh, this is a poem. You know, my wife loves art, and she loves poetry, and she does recite poetry. It's amazing, and she knows it. But anyhow, my mother is where I learned to love nature. So anyhow, here I go. Nature. I have a friend who understands nature holistically, tells you about the seasons, soils, forests, streams, animal life, all that God has given us, rationally, relationally, in semi-scientific terms. My mother knew nature with oohs and ahs. Dear God, Richard, look at that. Don't ask me the name of that tree, the hybrid of flower, the composition of rock, the whys and wherefores of the tides, the cause of monumental landslides. I'll tell you, though, the feel of a gentle wind, the vastness of the open sea, the pleasure I get at looking at California oaks on golden brown hill slopes. My mother is in me. I could stop now. I am going to stop now. I just want to thank Mayor Backus and the mayor who actually sent me, Mayor back there, who... there are two mayors here. I rate pretty well. But anyhow, I am honored. I just want to say that I thought at first, I could not believe they named me Poet Laureate, but anyhow, I have not rejected, I didn't refuse it. And I want to say thank you to the city of Auburn for the graciousness of everybody, Maya and everybody here, and all of these people here. I think I know 98% of you. It means that, well, friends are friends. Thanks so very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we do know they have a talented family, and Jessie Brugger is here. All of the art you see in our gallery out in the City Hall lobby is hers. I understand. Yes. A family of artists and comedians, and wow. So if you would like to join Jessie on a tour of her art in the lobby, she'd be happy to. It's in the script. I don't know. She's looking confused. This is. Yeah, sure. She'll talk to you, give autographs, take a picture, whatever it is. So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for helping us honor our first poet laureate, Dick Brugger.